Hey friends, how's it going today? Um, Thank you for being here on like the most random Tuesday evening. I usually just go live on Sundays with my friend Mars when we do our casually comics chat. As you can see here, this is not Mars. I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
Brandon, you are so beautiful.
Oh,
But you're not Mars.
oh,
But we are here to talk about a pretty darn interesting sci-fi book here. We only
yes.
find them when they're dead. Um, so, really quick, I just kind of want to get into the book. But first, since you've never been on this channel with me before, we've obviously done a couple things together. We've done a show on your channel when we basically did the same thing for Department of Truth. But for anyone who's watching who isn't familiar with you, Brandon, who are you? Don't let that question give you an existential crisis, but who are you?
Well, I'm a comic reader like everyone else here. But hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon. You can find me over on Instagram at ComixKings and YouTube. 20 years old. Sometimes I act older, sometimes I act a little bit younger, but that's okay. Um, I'm a huge Marvel fan, really big into Daredevil and the X-Men. I read almost everything on the shelf right now, and usually I would be over at the X-Men show right now, be
Mm-hmm.
hassling those guys. But we're here talking about Indie Deep Dives. This is a show that, which is awesome because like the whole point of comics is to explore your horizon and explore your reading lists. So I'm always about promoting work. And just reading comics and being able to talk about them in general. I host a bunch of shows in the YouTube community.
You really
Uh,
do. Even I feel like I need a rundown of all the shows that you do. Like, what shows can people find you on other than the X-Men one, which we're stealing you
right.
away from right now?
Well, I'm usually in the chat. They have other
In the chat,
guests
in the chat.
tonight.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a guest there, but I have 3 pillar shows on my channel. One of which is weekly wrap up, which is every Friday. It's very similar to Casually Comics on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um,
And it usually goes live right before I go live on Comic Talk Live with Will the Beast, who's in the chat. So thank you for being here.
yes.
And usually I listen to your like weekly wrap up show, like as I'm getting ready for Comic Talk Live. So I love it. Sometimes I just like push in the chat and
Right.
I'm like, hey friends, and I don't respond, but I'm like, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
listening.
yeah, yeah, and that's basically where we take 8 to 10 books. I count the X-Men as one book, and like all the Star Wars crossovers as one book, and we just like review them, let you guys know what we thought about them, and if we would continue to read them, and basically like different things you may have missed in those issues, giving you a complete rundown of what's going on in that book, and our unfiltered opinions as well, and then Creators Corner, which is self-explanatory. I host a
Mm-hmm.
show with the creator, and that show is 1 year old this weekend. 1 year old because I used to do it over on IG
Mm-hmm.
Live.
Yeah.
Transferring it over to YouTube is more of a recent development, but that is 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have never thought yet last year when I started it with Alex Sinclair, not only would Alex Sinclair be returning to the show in June 19th, he's returning, but Bob Layton will be on the show on Sunday, which
I know.
is
I heard that. That's so cool. For anyone who doesn't know who Bob Layton is, he's a pretty
legend.
famous like legend doing Iron Man, including whenever Iron Man was, an alcoholic and,
Right.
did that artwork was pretty cool. I know like as soon as you messaged me, I'm like, oh, I know who Bob Layton is. He came to a shop that I used to work at down in Florida because he did an exclusive cover for Hero Trader for a Rick and Morty cover of all things. So it's just so cool to see that like depth of
Yeah.
work.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So
Right.
you said that you've got your weekly wrap up. You said that you've got your creator corner,
And then
and
there is Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame, where we take 2 issues under a similar category and we just go over the issues, read them both, and then at the end let you guys know which one belonged to the Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame. So, for example, we just recently did a Memorial Day special where we
Mhm.
took Amazing Spider-Man 574, which was the origin of Flash Thompson losing his legs and that backstory, versus Superman Year One, Issue 2, where Superman joined the Navy. So that was very fitting towards that theme, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Jen, for dropping the link. So
You're welcome. I was just about to say, I did just go ahead and drop the link to Brandon's channel down here. So whenever you get a chance, go like and subscribe. Like you would go subscribe to that channel, like this video right now. I also did put in the description your link, so that should be there as well as I thought that I put a link to our like first kind of indie deep dive when we talked about the first volume of Department of Truth.
yes,
Yeah.
that was
So
great.
yeah. So kind of wrapping that up, you've got House of Shame,
Hall of
House of Fame,
Fame, Hall of Shame,
Hall of Fame, I'm
Hall of
thinking House
Shame,
of X, Powers of X.
which is great too. You
Which
can
is
do
so
that.
great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that, because you mentioned about X-Men and especially X-Men 20 that came out. I feel like that
Right.
is a total, I feel like you could really just read House of X, Powers of X, and then read like the X-Men issue from last week, and
Yes.
it makes so much. So anyways,
I would stick to Powers with that. Mainly
yeah.
Powers. House is mainly where you would get the Destiny vibes, and
Hmm.
then everything with Mystique was in Powers. But
Yeah. Like I said, anyone, please go and subscribe to Brandon's channel because you're doing such fantastic things. Like, not only, like you said, you're interviewing creators, you're interviewing creators, you're doing these like really, like, I love Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame, because it's such an interesting idea to take I remember one, it was like, did you do Death in the Family?
yeah, we did
Or
Death in the
yeah,
Family versus we did comic book deaths. We did Death of Mary, not Mary Jane. Oh my gosh, I can't remember my own show. What's wrong with me? Death of Gwen Stacy, ASM 121 versus that Batman issue where Jason died.
yeah.
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it is one of them.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really cool. I mean,
Thank
obviously,
you.
like, they're similar but different, and I wouldn't even know how to. I mean, there are some that I'm like, yeah, that's obviously the better one. But I love how you, like, I don't know, I feel like Roman gladiators, where you're like thumbs up, thumbs down.
Right, and it's really about just taking which one was the better story, right? Obviously,
Mhm,
like the reason why we're playing with the whole key element of everything going on is because of the fact that people look at a key and they're like, oh my gosh, money sign, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching,
mhm,
but they don't really understand the contents, right? Like I could have a 9.8 right over here, or I could have like a book it could be like that's the first key that I just saw. It's
mhm.
not really a key, but it's like a 9.8. Obviously, price
Yeah.
tag versus the one behind me, but which
Mhm.
one was a better story? That's really up
Yep.
to the reader and how you perceive comics.
Yep, for sure. For sure. And it's so, like, it could be so opinionated where it's like it could just be someone's favorite character and they're obviously going to be like, I love that one, and it's like, well, which one's really the better story? Um
Right.
so
Right.
I do want to go ahead and I want to say hi, howdy friends, to a couple people in the chat. First off here, Missing Link, thanks so much for being here. My liege station, y'all.
That would be
Um
me.
and then you saying hello in the chat, and then hello to Aramis, and then hello, thank you so much for being here, Unruly Simeon. um and okay, so Unruly Simeon really likes this series, where I have some hot takes. So um hey Will, how's it going today? I have a fantastic Friday show with such a great group of people on Friday. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, they're okay. Half of them are cool. You and Wildebeest are fine.
Aw.
I don't know about the Cosmic Beard and the other guy.
Bearded comic bro, Fireball
Yeah.
Ryan, and
Oh no, he's
Sammy.
cool. Oh, Sammy, I
Yeah,
thought John was on that show too.
John is on the show every now and then.
I was gonna throw shade at
Yeah,
him and
John's like
Greg.
my bestie. I'm
I
just
love
kidding.
them. I love them to
Yeah.
death. I love them to death.
Let's see here, and then hello,
Cheers.
James. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I need Comics Will Break Your Heart to move because I'm working Sunday morning. Ah, so I feel like Mars and I have been playing with like, do we do better in the mornings? Do we do better in the evenings? Usually that
Evenings.
would like switch up for me because I would either work Sunday morning or work Sunday evening, so that would determine. So now Sundays are kind of like free range for me. So I've been thinking, I'm like, okay, well maybe let's do a Sunday night show. So if you want to do a Sunday night show, let us know. I mean, if
I'm
not,
usually sleeping a lot Sunday morning. So even though you guys are like
yeah.
behind me and I'm like first, you guys are starting at 11 a.m. my time. I'm still out
Yeah.
cold.
Oh my goodness. I almost would be too. Like if it was me, I would, if my body didn't decide what time I woke up, I'd wake up at like noon, 1 o'clock. And then of course I have to say hello to the beautiful Sheena, who is just one of the most beautiful people in this
Yes.
community. And I love you so much, girl.
Yes, Sheena, my BFF.
And I think Sheena agrees, Sunday night shows as
Yeah,
well.
Sunday night, Sunday night. Then I could
Um,
be there if you want. Okay.
yeah. And Comic Toby has a question. Do you know Comic Tom? He is from Portland. So I don't know Comic Tom like personally. I know who he is. I thought that he lived in like Seattle or somewhere north of me. I'm in Portland. I think that he's somewhere in Washington because he does shows with Fire Guy Ryan, who is somewhere up there. So I think that he lives somewhere up there. Not really sure. So. Um, Sunday night show would be good. Okay, so I guess friends, we may do a Sunday night show. I'll converse with the other comic host and see what we can get into. Um,
Boom. Cheers.
so now that we've spent about 10 minutes, yeah, 10ish minutes on the like introduction and the hellos and everything out of the way.
One more
I
quick thing I do want to
One more
talk
quick
about.
thing.
I
Yes,
do
let's
want to
talk about it.
wish everybody a happy Pride. It is the first of the
Happy.
month, and I do want to say like be who you are in the community. You know, I know that's a lot easier said than done. This
Yeah.
is one of the more empowering months, but it's also, in my experience with some people, my friend group, it can be one of the biggest struggles as well. So just
Mm-hmm.
make sure, right, especially you're always open, keeping an open mind to what people are going through, and just being the best person you can be to each and every single person you encounter, right? At the end of the day, we're all human. So
100%.
happy Pride to everyone who celebrates. If you're an ally or you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, you guys are being proud of who you are, no matter whether your sexuality you are and gender. Just be proud of
Yes.
who you are and love yourself the way other people do. I just wanted to say that before we put in our hot takes. Let people know we're good people.
I love that so much. Thank you for that. Because as someone who is very, very openly bisexual, pansexual, and just, I feel like pride. I try to live a life that, like, pride is every day, but of course, like this month, I feel like my superpowers just activate.
Ooh,
Um,
Jen's mutant power,
I know
Sentinel
my mutant
activated.
powers, yeah.
Nimrod, right
So
here.
oh my goodness. I do have a like lovely, delicious. I was hoping people, I don't know if people like
I
would
noticed.
pick that out, but I've got some very cool recommendations back here. I'll probably try to keep it up all Pride Month and maybe switch up the books because there's a ton of them. I have a ton of queer book recommendations.
I
Um,
don't see anything Cena Grace's did. Cena Grace. Sorry.
I probably should. The one thing that I have on my list that Cinna Grace recently did was Getting
Oh,
It Together,
that was great.
and that was such a good book. But I feel like it was very like the the queerness of it was more in the background than like in the foreground. I mean, it was still like a 100% great story, but I loved it. It's like I feel like Sex in the City meets Scott Pilgrim, and just that like
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just think it was a story that he just wanted to tell, like regardless. I think that was really
Mhm,
what he wanted to do with that. But it's out there,
mhm,
so definitely give it a read.
for sure. Um, I think that Mars and I are gonna try to like get our like powers activated and do like a queer recommendation list. So watch out, folks.
The
We're gonna
Green
do it.
Lantern's light, boom! It just went off with them.
Someone else popped in. Hello, Bobby. Thank you so much
Stick.
for being here. So let's go ahead and dive into We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Um, this one I feel like is
It's a lot. It's
it's
a
a
lot.
lot. so I've read this probably like I would say 2.5 times. So I was reading, so I was reading the single issues, kind of dropped it, kind of like browsed through it when the trade came out, and then of course for the show, I'm like, let me go ahead and read it like a third time, second and a half time, whatever that ends up being.
The skin reader,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
I feel like this is, like I said, 2.5 times, basically 3 times going through this. I still had no clue what was going on.
I had a little. I don't know. I just reread it like the past hour, and I picked up on a lot of minor details that I'm like, I completely missed.
Yes.
Right. I feel like when you're looking for something, it's just not there. But when you're just like, I don't know, procrastination hits hard, and you're just like going through it. It's all there. But Al Ewing is really building this universe. What really threw me off wasn't necessarily his storytelling, but the colors were just too bright. And I'm not the biggest fan of.
Really? See, I felt like the colors were too dark on it. Like I
Well,
felt like the artwork is beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the artwork is absolutely fantastic on this book, but I felt like there were moments whenever it was
it
maybe
meshed
too
too
muddy.
dark with too light. So I'm colorblind, right? So
Oh, okay.
my buddy's in the chat. Valerie, what's going on? I told Valerie,
Hello.
so I work with Valerie, and I've been getting her into
Nice.
comics. I've been so unapologetically myself at work, getting everyone into comics. Valerie, you missed my whole speech like 2 minutes ago, so go rewind. But
Yeah, rewind like maybe go back like 5 minutes because it was
and
beautiful.
yeah,
It was perfect, Brandon.
thank you. So I started her and reading comics, and she read Young Avengers. She read, what else did I have her read? I had her read Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron and Chris Pachalo.
Okay.
And I'm having her read Venom right now by Donny Cates, but I don't know if she's liking that because she stopped like halfway through and she won. I'm like, yeah, she's done.
Yeah.
She's been watching. Okay. But big shout out to her for actually being in the chat. But
nice.
I'm trying to get my coworkers into comics because that's all I know how to talk to people about.
You know, it's so funny because going back into the wild, I guess, I really don't know how to talk to people about things that aren't comic books. Like, I've basically been at home for a year and a half talking to strangers on the internet about comic books. I don't know how, and granted, the only like in-person experience I have with people is like other than my like house partner who like, you know, we live together. Other than like my partner, the only inhuman people that I actually talk to are people at the comic book store. So like, of course, I don't know how to interact with people in the real world. If anyone else out there has it figured it out, please let me know because I don't know how to talk to people.
Couldn't tell you. What's a Netflix? I don't know. Never heard of her.
Yeah. So with this book, you know, I loved the artwork. I could definitely see how being colorblind, you would struggle reading through this, but obviously like I don't, I do have like some vision issues, but it's not like color blindness.
Yeah.
So, I could imagine that would, especially because in this artwork, it's beautiful, it's very dynamic, but sometimes it is a lot. Like
it's very
for me,
negative too.
yeah.
It uses a lot of negative space. So, and you can tell this was completely done on a digital canvas, right?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to Luciano Vecchio, but just a little bit more on steroids. That's just the way that I'm going to put it. Simone Di Meo is the reason why I dropped Champions. I'm going to be very honest. I loved Eval Ewing, but I couldn't deal with the art style. But
you know, when I was at my
this was
LCS,
fine.
as I do every Wednesday, I was talking with Nick there, who just gives the absolute best recommendations, and Nick recommended that I read The Ultimates by Al Ewing, and we were kind of chatting about that, and we were Nick said something about how good Al Ewing is at like doing weird space stuff, like going into like weird space science fiction. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. Like, you know, I'm kind of doing a deep dive into We Only Find Them When They're Dead. And as I was reading this one for the show, I was like, I feel like this is a pitch for Galactus that never happened. Like, this is a pitch for a Galactus story that Al Ewing wanted to do, but Marvel wouldn't let them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, and I feel like, right, especially because Marvel has had an overflooding of Galactus a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, especially with Antithesis. Of course, Mark Waid and Neil Adams will beat that pitch any day, twice on
Mm-hmm.
Sundays, every other Saturday. Like, you're not going to beat it, you
Yeah.
know, but that was a great Galactus story nonetheless. But
Mm-hmm.
this really did feel like Galactus, also with a little bit of ego in there. I was like, this is
Yeah.
I was like, this would work so much better if you put all the Eternals in this
I was
book.
just about to say the Eternals. Yep.
Get us ready for the Eternals movie, and this is what you want to do, you know?
Yep.
I found like Ikaris was very similar to the main character in here,
Yeah.
who disappeared a little bit, George's.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just saw a lot of different parallels, like you said, to the Marvel universe. I love Al Ewing. I think that when it comes to, and I've always been talking about this on my show, there's a difference between a character study writer, like a character writer, and a visionary. Mm-hmm. Your visionaries, your Chris Claremont, right? Bob Layton, who we mentioned earlier, you know, Stan Lee, all those great, Jim Steranko, people who like have elevated the universe, stretched those boundaries. Al Ewing is one of them. Jonathan Hickman is one of them. 10 years ago, Brian Bendis. But,
well,
you know,
here's what I would say. I think that because you mentioned Jonathan Hickman, I feel like Jonathan Hickman does both really well with like the way that I like to look at it. And it's funny because I was having a conversation with a coworker about this, about some people. I was mentioning like work stuff, and I'm like, some people are really good at seeing the forest and some people are really good at seeing the trees. And I was like, you know, I'm the type of person, like I'm a type B personality. I'm not a type A personality. And right now I'm doing kind of like a desk job where I feel like it requires a lot of those like type A things, and I'm just not that person. And I'm like, I work really well being a type B, seeing the forest person, being with a type A person who like sees the trees, right? So I feel like the people who see the plot, the writers that see the big plot, they see the forest, right? And the people who do the characters really see the trees. And I think Jonathan Hickman, like, he's got a magic brain, does both so well.
right.
Now I'm like, what would it look like for Jonathan Hickman to write something like this? And I'm here for anything Jonathan Hickman.
I think a graphic design page would have really helped really navigate this world. And that's
yes, like a Hickman dump. I call it the Hickman dump.
The Hickman dump,
where Hickman is all of a sudden like he's done it in like obviously like all the
Decorum, Manhattan Project,
Decorum, East of West,
and the Jennifer's Frozen. So East of West,
where it's like, okay, in the middle of a oh no, okay, we're back, y'all. I don't know what just happened there, but we blipped. We both made it through the blip. I'm
a little older.
I think that 5 years older. We're all of a sudden 25.
No facial hair. So, I can drink now. Cheers.
Cheers. So I definitely think that with this definitely did. You're right. Like, I think that that's why this book was so confusing for me. And it, even after like almost a third read, I needed that, because there's moments in this book where it goes forward, backward, a little bit backward, a little bit forward. So it's small. If you don't catch it, you completely miss it.
Right.
Did you feel that while you were reading this?
Yeah, I felt like I was like going back to the title page to figure out like, okay, what year is this and what years? And honestly, I stopped paying attention to the years and just went with it, and I was much better. I'm so like I had like a bubble in my throat, but like I feel like even with his Immortal Hulk, it's like if you ignore a lot of like the complex aspects, it makes the story simpler. So a lot of times when you're dealing with these writers, your Scotts and I.G.R. Ewings, who love to push how much they make you think, because that's their job, is to make you think, dumb yourself down and navigate onto a single topic. And that's really how I got through this book. Now I know a lot of readers like, fuck that. I can curse on the show, right? Yeah, fuck that.
have you watched this
Yes,
show?
I
Okay,
have,
I was
but
gonna say, have you even watched or listened to a Sunday show? Like I say, I feel bad because John
dumb
is
bitch
like
money.
John told me one time, he's like, you've got some fans of your show, like saying his daughters, and I'm like, yo, don't put that pressure on me. I cannot be that role model. I curse way too much. And then he was like, nah, don't worry. Like those words drop in our household. It's okay. And I'm like, nah, dude, like I say some bad ones. And then I think he was like, yeah, I don't think my daughters can watch your show because you say, and I'm like, see, told you. So yeah, long story short, you can definitely curse on this show.
John, if you're watching, don't show this to your daughters
Yeah.
because, yeah. But yeah, some readers are really not about that thinking life, right? Some people are. I would say this book is an experience. I would, if I were recommending an indie book, this obviously would not be my first choice, and it wouldn't be my second, third, or fourth.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't also be my first Al Ewing story. You know, I feel like the
Yeah.
more he dips into what he wants to do as an indie writer, the more he's gonna grow. Because even his Marvel stories, when he first started out, were nothing special, right? Until he really grew as that writer. You know, Empire was fantastic. I don't care what you
Yeah.
guys say.
Mm-hmm.
I
No, I
liked
agree.
Empire, but
I
what
agree.
editorial did to that, he did a good job. So blame CB Sobuski or someone else who can actually give a shit about it. But
I do really quick. I feel like I always forget to do this whenever I do like a deep dive or like we talk about a comic. Um, I want to go over what the plot actually is of this.
right. Yeah,
Because
yeah. I always
for
like to do
anyone
that
who
too.
for
But
anyone, I always forget to do it. I just like get right in there and I'm like, here are my thoughts. But here's the actual like kind of like plot of this book is that it's in the future. It's what, 2367. It's in the 2300s ish. And there's basically a crew that is a
autopsy unit.
autopsy unit for these big mech gods that in space, and spoiler alert, they only find them when they're dead. So
Oh.
so
It all makes sense.
they only find them when they're dead. Spoiler alert. I mean, I'm probably not giving it away. They eventually find one that is not dead, I guess. But maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. So anyways, they basically, their whole like maybe like capitalist system is based on going and salvaging the wreckage of these dead gods that are
Right.
big galacti in space.
Right.
And the crews basically go in and like each one of them has their function. Like one person goes in and like um tears them apart, I guess, and then they salvage them and bring stuff back.
Right. The gods have like this energy that preserves their human race that we
Mhm,
never see.
mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like I don't care about what the purpose of the energy is. I just want to see these four characters in their journey.
Yep.
Um so could this be a longer story? I don't know, but yeah, that's a plot. And then going forward, of course, you get a bunch of different subplots. And as we're going through the mystery of how to find the living Galactus, the one that's not dead, the living
Mhm.
god, you're these subplots and these backstories of these characters are crisscrossing and making these different diversions and connections. And it's like a maze and it's like a chase at the same
Yep.
time. So
Because there's
what
people who
yeah,
are like trying to
kill
get
them.
the salvage, I
Yeah.
guess.
And
And
also kill them.
so yeah, so then and like seek revenge. So there is that like plot twisty part, I guess.
Right. So think Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire, right before Cedric dies.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yep.
because I'm a Hufflepuff.
One thing that I do, because I want to preface this with, I really enjoyed this book. I thought that it had a lot of really interesting, like it has a really good, forest. It has a really good big picture and it has a really good plot. But I felt like it took me until this last read to remember a couple of characters' names. Like in the first time that I read it when it was coming out in single issues, I couldn't remember a single person's name.
Yeah, no.
So I feel like I really liked the plot, but when it came down to the characters, I wasn't in love. I didn't feel the motivations of the characters. Maybe in like issue 4-ish, Was there a character that you feel like you resonated with, or
I
that
liked
like you?
Alice. I liked Alice.
Okay.
I liked Jason. I think Jason was like the most real person. I think he was more of the steady head. Jason is the sister of Ella, so they are they're brother and sister. And then George is really, I don't know how to say, he really just like, we learned how psychotic the guy was, and it was like I was rooting for him at first, like halfway through the
Hmm.
book, and I'm like, I completely turned a full 180 when like one of his past interests came back, and I was like, see, she's every right to be a dick to you. I'm sorry, you know, like you had these two girls, one of them killed his parents, and that was the commander, and then you had another girl who wanted to kill him because he broke up with her and killed his
Hmm.
brother. So I was like, Princess Bride just came in full storm in like this third issue. I was like, I don't, it's too much, right? Um, of course, like you said, like going through this book, you just couldn't really remember because it's like once you see a complex number that's not in your timeline, the human brain does it. It's harder for it to remember.
Yeah.
So when you're telling a futuristic story, you really have to put the setting first. And I don't think the setting was well established in the art because it all looks the same.
It does. Like you don't.
That
I
was
think,
my biggest problem. That was my
and
biggest problem with the book.
to Sheena's point, like the facial expressions didn't match what was going on. Like to maybe in the script writing process, like what did the script like that Al Ewing gave to Simone Di Meo? So was it like, this as someone who would like to write comics, like I think about that reverse engineering. So it's like, did the script not provide enough? Like, did the script not say like, okay, this is the character's action, this is emotionally how they're feeling, and I felt like the artwork in this is so beautiful, but it's really dark, it's really muddied, the facial expressions,
Yeah.
and whenever you do see a character, it's almost like you see the character um like just in their space. You don't see them moving through their parts
Right.
of the ship, so I think that's hard to be like, where are they? um
Yeah, I feel like you're just walking through a museum, and
yeah.
it's just like everything is so stand still. And Simone Di Meo, I definitely think he's a talented artist. It's just not my cup of tea, which
Hmm.
is which is completely okay. I'm not gonna call it dog water because obviously these are two talents that are doing great work in Marvel. It's just neither what Al Ewing is more my style, and Simone Di Meo to me I think is lacking for my standards what I'm looking for in art. But um,
Yeah.
I just think like I think Al Ewing had a sense of the world, right? And it was
Hmm.
established in the dialogue, right? The dialogue established the world, but the setting not so much. So it was harder for as the reader to really connect the two and where we are.
It's funny that you mentioned that the dialogue is really what builds the world, and you're right, because in the first issue of this story, it's like they're all talking the same language and they have like their own
Lingo,
vernacular,
right?
right? They
Kind of
have
like
their
how we
own
all say,
lingo.
kind of like how we say station, right? No one understands us.
No one understands what the hell station is, but and like every time I'm in the comments, like, and everyone's doing the station greeting, it's like someone in the chat's always like, what does station mean?
And
um
Travis is
yeah,
there
and then
typing on
Travis,
three chats.
yeah. um
Station Travis.
so then, with this, and to your point that the lingo or the language is almost like what builds the world. In this, there's some language where the crew is talking to each other, and they're like, eight bells, all's well. And like you see that kind of like repeated through the story, and then there's these big like, throughout the story, whenever you see the big, I'm just going to call him Galactus because that's just what it looks like to me. When you see the big galacti in space, and like you hear the like dong dong, it makes me think of the Law and Order, like dong dong. Like, and you can see eight of them on the screen, so you literally will see like dun 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 dun
Right, right, right.
dun dun dun, and so like they'll say, eight bells, all's well. So I just thought that was really interesting, and like, you don't literally see the world being built because all of perspectives and views are basically
They're so one-dimensional.
because they're either like you literally see this much of a person on the panel, you don't see too much of the cockpit behind them, and you don't see too much design of the ship,
Right.
but you do get little glimpses of it, and then you do see the big galacti in space, and that's basically it. There's one or two scenes where
Yeah.
it goes back and
Now, I have a question for you. If you
mhm.
were to switch out the artist, because I already have like 3 that I can name off the bat, who would you pick if you could replace the artist?
I would say, if off the top of my head, I would love to see Stephanie Hans do the artwork for something like this, because it would still have that, because I think of obviously Die, and I think that she does really well with world building. And I
Right.
would really love to see her do something galactic, right? Because in Die, it's very like fantasy based, and I
Oh, that's
really
such
love.
a great book, though.
Hmm.
Um,
So I would say Stephanie Hans is one that comes to mind.
I would have gone with Brian Hitchcock would have been my first pick, and Christian Ward would have been my second.
And I love the Christian Ward variant covers for this. There's,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
like, give
each
him the
one
book.
are like, yep. I heard a puppy. I think that was a puppy in the background.
Yeah, that my dog is making his off-screen cameo appearance, kind of like how Punchline had her lip in Batman '89. That's my dog.
I do. Let me see if I can grab it really quick. It's not up there because it means it's down here. But if anyone has seen Odyssey, or has read Odyssey, I would highly recommend that. Um, if you do end up, let me go ahead and see if I can pull the artwork up real quick.
Right.
Do, do, do.
And then Nick Dragata I would put on this book as well.
Ooh, yeah, like thinking about Jonathan Hickman, Dragata was the other half of East of West. I would 100% love to see that.
And then of course there are other people that I could list off the top of my head, but we would be here all day. Point is, I think that Simone Di Meo's art style, and this is where you really talk about what's best in what's going to be the future of comics, and can you achieve this in the digital platform, is doing your pencils on an iPad. Can you achieve that kind of 3D? I can even go as far as say 4-dimensional kind of scenery and establish that world, especially when you're embarking on a sci-fi story.
Yeah. So I think that you would like to see this done traditionally and not digitally. Is that what you're saying here?
I think that I would much rather that be the case, because I think you would even look at the line work for some of the galactic the gods. Look at the line work for some of the gods, right? They're big. They're not overpowering. They're not like kind of taking over the page. No. I would say the line work is so dependent on negative space because it's done digitally. It has to do that, and it has to be brought out in the colors. But there was some sort of disconnect in that. What's up, Gabby? My favorite Quake fan.
Yeah, I think and I say all of these things with saying I personally I love the artwork. I think that it's great, but I think that there was a mismatch between the art and the story a little bit.
Who's doing the colors? It is okay, with color assists by I've never heard of this person. Marisara Miotti?
Maria Sarah, maybe it's Maria, because it looks like Maria Sarah Miotti.
Miotti.
And with color assist, what that might mean is either they do some type of flatting or some type of affecting. So I don't, because it doesn't say colors by, it says colors assist. So to me, that means maybe flatting. So not really sure.
I don't know. There's a disconnect in this book somewhere, because when I see a giant, when I see any big person, I go to the mall and I see some 6'5" person. My eyes are centered on them. I don't care who they are, right? They are overpowering. They're bigger than everyone else. They have that significance, that strength over everyone, right? It's a gift, and I didn't feel like those giants really had that overbearing aspect to them, especially maybe I would have liked to see things drawn at a different perspective. We only really get that one-dimensional look. Nothing, right? And that was my biggest. And I'm going to compare this to Jason Fabek's Three Jokers. It was great, but we saw yeah, I hated the book, but the art was the book was okay.
The artwork was good.
The artwork was good.
I hated the book though so much for so many reasons.
But the thing that I would say where I would never want to see Jason Fabek do an ongoing Batman book is because he couldn't get any of the angles and everything was so 90 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at what Jorge Jimenez is doing. You look at what Dan Mora is doing, or even some of the panels that Victor Bogdanovich has been teasing.
Ooh, you mentioned Dan Mora. I would love to see Dan Mora on this artwork. Like
I would love to see Dan Mora do everything.
Team, Dan Mora and Tamara Bonvillain, like 100%. I mean, I keep saying that I love Simone Di Meo's work. I absolutely love it, but I just feel like I needed something a little bit different.
Right, like this panel was good. Right here, we got that Gypsy.
Here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna solo. Yep.
See, like this panel is where this kind of artwork makes sense because this type of digital technique is you can only do it there. You could only make those highlights there. Unless your name's Alex Sinclair and you're the best colorist in the world. I don't care.
Yeah.
Not just because he's going to be on my shirt, or even this one, where it looks very much like Millennium Falcon type.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That's really it when they're going through what's called their warp, which is basically like they are going through light speed. I'm going to say light speed.
Light speed?
Yeah, it's like when they're going through light speed.
I did. So there are those I think maybe just one moment, 2 moments. I think that the time that they're in is different, but the moments where they do go through the time warp, and I thought it was really interesting the science-y talk that was going on, because they were like, well, if we're going through warp, then this can happen, or this will happen to our ship. And I really liked that like science-y breakdown of it. Like I'm a nerd for those science things, and I really, really appreciated like those were the moments that got me as a reader where if I didn't have those moments in this book personally, I probably would have put this down.
Right. And there are definitely moments where you just look at it like, oh, this is cool, and I want to keep reading, because again, the dialogue is so engaging, and Al Ewing as a sci-fi writer is remarkable. So this is not a knock on Al Ewing. This is more like if he has a better creative team around him, because I think Simone Di Meo was very suffering, or if Al Ewing decided, hey, let me take a sci-fi story, take away all the tropes that I wanted to tell in previous adventures, and do something different, and really, because like I hate comparing Al Ewing to Hickman or any writer team, but if Al Ewing really utilizes the sense of world building, and or even what I'm gonna talk about Invisible Kingdom for a hot minute.
G. Willow Wilson, and once again, that's another Christian Ward book. So
right,
I think Christian Ward, yeah.
But again, I don't want to say Christian Ward because it's like, oh, I just saw him do this. So what? In my mind, I would enjoy it, but on paper, I was like, I just saw this shit. Like Christian Ward did amazing things in Black Bolt. He can definitely tell this world. But G. Willow, the way that what's up, Shattered Glass, the way that she was able to world build and really show where the setting was, right, and it maybe even established that in her script, I think could have been a little bit tighter than what Al Ewing was doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I'm comparing this to any sci-fi work, I'm going to talk about Invisible Kingdom, not so much anything else that like Decorum, even because I would say Decorum because it does give you that sense of the world. But Invisible Kingdom, well, no.
I hate Decorum so much, and here's why. I've read every single issue, and I have no clue what the fuck is going on, and not in a delightful way. Like normally, like when I like a book and it's like, oh, I have no clue what's going on, but I like it. In Decorum, I'm lost, and maybe it'll be like one of those Tom King books where I just need to read it all at once. Like Tom King, I have to read collected. I cannot read anything Tom King week to week. But
Strange Adventures,
which is another one of those which like goes. I can't do it.
I can't do it. Like with it, I love it. I'm trying to stay with it, but there are too many like working parts. I'm like the cliffhangers that you want to have at the end of a single issue aren't
Mm-hmm.
doing it for me because I think he's really mastering. Hey, I'm gonna make more of my money in trade. When that Eisner Award comes around, this trade is gonna win. Which Eisners are coming up in like 2 months, so I'm
Yeah.
excited. I hope they're not a failure like they were last year.
Why? I did not think that those were a failure at all.
I think I don't knock on Bitterroot. I love Bitterroot. I love
No.
Bitterroot. But
Get those words out of your mouth.
when you talk about best ongoing series and it's 2 issues versus a Daredevil
No.
story unlike any
No.
other that was 15 at the time, I'm out.
Disagree. Bitterroot deserved everything it won.
It deserved. It
So
could have
bye,
won
folks. We're
best
ending the
limited series.
show.
It
I'm
could
just
have
kidding.
won best limited series. There was a different category for it.
Yeah.
Best. I'm sorry again, and best new series really should have gone to Something Is Killing the Children or Once in Future. I feel like they put, and I hate to say they like, and I'm all for like giving each writer their spot. I feel like there was a lot of bias in like the cultures of different creators and different biases, especially at that time. Is like you needed something like that, and it suited that need. But I'm always like, you should put the work first before anything. The work first before the culture and the ethnicity. Because at the end of the day, that's really what's going to dismantle everything. Is if we stop putting that first and we put, the quality of each other and what we're sharing. That's just my opinion. I hope I'd say it in the best way possible. But I feel like the Eisners were very, I feel like they were very biased. That's the best word that I can put it.
I
All the
I
titles were
100%.
deserving of winning.
I think that, I think that here's my perspective. I think it was a tough call. There was a lot of really good things on that list. However, I love Bitterroot so much. I'm so glad. I think that it 100% deserved what it did. Um, I I love it so much. Do I think that this is deserving of an Eisner?
No,
No, I do not think so.
it won't
I
be
liked
nominated.
this book. I feel like I never want to be like, this is the best book and everyone should read it, because it's not certainly so. But I do feel like um, there's a certain person I would recommend this for. And I feel like I would almost recommend this for anyone who likes anime. Like anyone who likes Gundam, I think would really like this. Maybe a little bit of Evangelion, like things like that, I think would really enjoy this series here. Do you have like, if you like this, then you should read that. Like, do you have that list in mind? Like, if you liked this, you should also read this, or if you liked that, you should read this.
Right now, I'm like, if you liked this, you better be reading Invisible Kingdom. That's
Yeah.
if I'm more like, if you like this writer, you'll like this aspect of them. Like if you said, like if someone said, "Oh, I want to dive into a character or a writer or an artist," or I like horror, or a lot of times in the community today, right? We have more. I'm seeing more new readers to the community, which is awesome than ever. But yes,
That's where
but
my heart is. You know that. That's where my heart is with like new readers and getting
yes,
more
in the
people in
comics,
means more for
right
everybody. It's not pie,
now
folks.
there's a bridge, right, to me where it's like, eventually, like, I'm glad you're enjoying this, but be careful because it might disappoint you, or eventually in your experience of reading for in a few years or even a few months, you're going to see something better that has less
Mm-hmm.
tropes.
Yeah.
This is very tropey, so if someone picks this up as their new book, I would point them in a different direction. I wouldn't hinder them. Or if but back to my point, if you said, "Oh, James Tynion IV is my favorite writer right now," and you only knew him from Something to Kill the Children, Wind, Department of Truth, and Batman, obviously great titles,
But
all of
here,
them. But I
all
would
those are
say,
such four different titles, and to me, like those could be four different writers. Tynion does like incredible things with like those four that you just mentioned are so four different stories. I love
right,
it.
right. I would point them more into reading. Oh, if you like that, his Justice League Dark is the best. Or you want to get, or if you like the characters that he's introducing, it's similar to the Rise of the Batman or Batman Eternal, where he's playing with these different characters that were already established,
Yeah.
which we never see anymore because DC editorials just Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne. in Tynion's Detective Comics, even in Batman Eternal, Batman really took a step back and let the Bat family, minus Nightwing, Dan DiDio, take over. But that's really where I'm at when I'm like recommending, and I do have a new show coming out that is very similar to what we just talked about.
Ooh. If you had to rate this on some type of, I'm not even saying like a numeric scale, any type of like scale, 1 through 10, 1 through 4, 1 through 5, I don't know, 1 through
A CGC
69.
scale.
A CGC scale, like, is it a 9.8? Is it where are we very fine? Are we near mint? Like, where
I'm
are we at with
fine.
this book?
I'm fine. This book is harmless. At the end of the day, it's harmless. Is it the best Al Ewing you're going to get in his career? No. Is it the worst? Maybe. But we have time. Time is yet to tell. Yeah. If I were to grade this, I'd give it a 7.0. It's a solid 7.0.
I feel like I'm kind of right there with you. Like I said, is this like the best book? Is this going to be the book that I'm recommending to everyone? No, because Rom V is my favorite writer, and I'm recommending everything Rom V is doing to everyone that will like fucking listen to me and not tell me to shut the fuck up. Which thank you all for being here. But I feel like like I said before, there is definitely a person out there who like this will be their favorite book. Do I 100% know who that is? No. Is it me? No. But you're out there somewhere. Whoever, like, this is your favorite book. I see you. You're valid. um,
With the
I just,
story, not the art. No, I'm kidding. You're
yeah.
valid. You're valid.
One thing that I do have to bring up because I just read this book yesterday, and it's called, or maybe the day before, we Don't Go Without Me, and it is a weird little anthology sci-fi book. And there's 3 different stories in it. The first one is there's this portal where if you walk into it, you go to another dimension or another timeline or something. And this couple both go in and they get separated. They're looking for each other. It's beautiful. Like I literally cried. And then I immediately text Mars and I'm like, Mars, I read this book. It made me cry. I need you to read it right now. Because that's what comic book BFFs do.
Right.
But so, anyways, the third story in this was this really beautiful story about how there is this universe, and the story that's being told is it's the end of the world. And there is this big giant that the entire universe, the entire world has been living in the shadow of. And they know tomorrow morning it's about to wake up. So, how do you celebrate your last night on Earth? And they're basically going through the emotions. Like some people are crying, some people are celebrating, some people can smell food everywhere. And when I was reading that last story, it really made me think of we only find them when they're dead, because I feel like this told an emotional story in a way that was, I don't
Similar to
know,
the same like
a, te-
storyline.
a similar in like scope, but within
Right.
like less than a quarter of the pages. And so like I was thinking about that when I was rereading this, and I was like, I wish this was shorter. I wish it was more self-contained and didn't have all the extra stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it felt. Yeah, I feel like we're just running in circles with that. It's like and again, it all is on the art. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
take your time and say hello to Rod because
Rod, hello.
if
He
you
better
guys
get a
aren't,
ton of
yeah,
stations.
yeah, if you guys aren't taking the time to like and subscribe to this channel, make sure you take your time to say hello to Rod, even though you should be doing all the above. The correct answer
Mm-hmm.
is D, all the above.
All the
Do it
above.
all. Um, but yeah, right now I just finished reading Captain America by Brubaker on Marvel
Mm-hmm.
Unlimited, which is very handy dandy. And
Oh
now,
my goodness, right?
now I'm going back to not to reread, to basically go on an Amazing Spider-Man binge from Brand New Day. That's my guilty pleasure. I don't care what you guys say.
Wow.
It's my
Okay.
guilty pleasure.
This is a
And
judgment-free zone.
no, it's not, but because I know people are judging that, but it's I enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I just like, because we don't have an Amazing Spider-Man book right now that's good. So I'm just like, I need one. I need one, and I've
I
finished up Cap just to get to that.
I kind of like right now, speaking of Spider-Man, I did not like Nonstop Spider-Man. Like that needs to stop right now. Because it's rude. It's a rude book and I don't like it. Its smug aura mocks me. Um,
Uh,
but
I
I
think,
really have you been reading Spider Shadow?
yeah, but that's Elseworlds, and I need something in continuity for me to read. I love What If. I love that What If story,
Same.
which is very unlike me to care about something like that. Because usually,
Hmm.
what If used to do for people who don't know is it was a one-off story. It'd be like a 32-page thing, and it'd just be like,
Hmm.
oh, who cares? Fuck it, out of the
Hmm.
way. Excuse my
Yeah.
French.
Yeah.
You
Watch
know,
your fucking mouth, dude.
yeah, watch your fucking mouth. Who the fuck you talking to, bro? So um, this being a mini series allows the world to really develop. And when it comes down to comics and you're doing something different, right? Especially in an indie book or a Spider-Man book that's essentially an indie book, right? You
Yeah.
want to build that world first and the characters in it.
And you
Um,
don't feel like Spider Shadow did that?
I do. I loved it. I
Okay.
do. 100%. I feel like it did. And I'm enjoying it. I really am. I think it's the best Spider-Man book on the shelves right now. And
But that's a
that's
low bar. That's a low
it's an
bar.
extremely low bar. It's nonstop Spider-Man. I would give a B, solid B. I'm a huge Machalo
Nonstop
fan.
Spider-Man?
I'm giving it a solid B.
I'm
Chris
giving that an
Machalo.
F.
Chris Machalo is a great artist, and I'm putting it there. I miss his art in comic books.
I'm giving it a big old P because it's pissing me off. I hate Nonstop Spider-Man so much.
Don't read it, or
I'm
don't
not.
read it in a lower voice, you know. But yeah, and then Amazing Spider-Man to me, I'm just like, oh, it's good every seventh issue, but um, oh, is that the link to our Department of Truth?
This is the link to
Oh,
sorry, to Gary B's channel, because he is such a fantastic community member. Anyone who wants to, please go and say howdy over to Gary B because he's doing some amazing like grow together initiatives. And I know that there's a ton of people watching, tons of tens
just
of
subbed.
people. And he does such great things. There's people who are watching because he sent them over. So Gary B, I just want to return the love. Thank you so much.
Boom. That's what it's all about. That's really
Yeah.
what it's all about. So, yeah, back to this book in particular. Yeah, 7-0 for me, 100%.
Yeah.
I with Al Ewing doing it in indie work, I was very excited because he's been on a roll, but this was fine. It was one of those books like I didn't. It's just gonna go back on the bookshelf, and I'm not gonna remember what it is 5 years later. Or you'll be like, oh yeah, Al Ewing wrote that. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I did not
Mhm.
like it, so it's there. That's where I am.
It's good, but um
More.
I needed more. Like I see where it was going, but there's other books that I'm like, clearly those other books are my favorite. Um, but like I said, this could definitely be someone else's favorite. I could totally see it. And like I mentioned before, I feel like there are maybe anime readers, manga readers who would love something like this just because of the big
Right.
Evangelion, big Gundam fans. I would almost recommend something like this. So
Right.
um
Uh, do you want to talk about what we're going to be doing next? Next month,
what
if
are
we're
we
doing this.
doing next month?
I don't know. It'll be back on my channel.
Yeah, have so we'll definitely be on your channel. And I was actually, let me go ahead and I've got the
Oh, you
link
were.
ready.
Oh, were you brainstorming? I was going to say Jen was brainstorming a month ahead.
Well, I
I have
wasn't
a
brainstorming, but I went ahead and like dropped the link. We've
boom.
been doing like indie deep dives, so like I'm up for anything, if you want to go ahead and choose when it's on your channel and I'll choose when it's here, or we could do
Yeah,
whatever.
let's
But
do that. Your channel, your rules. Let's play it
yeah,
like that. I have a few books.
yeah.
We can do Once in Future. Obviously, that book is booming,
Hmm.
and we can do
Booming,
Middle West.
literally
Boom,
booming,
boom.
because it's
Yeah,
Boom
see,
Studios. See?
you got it. Yay. I Jupiter's Legacy. We can do it the TV show, which I already read.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you all that right now. Yeah, no. Once in Future, Middle West. I'm always up for reread.
yeah.
And then No, that's a big book. I'm just like looking of like what volume ones I have right now, or we could always recircle something as cute. I don't want to do another Tiny book because we just did Tiny.
Yeah, because we did Department of Truth. Maybe even if anyone like in the chat, like even
Crossover.
I would actually love to do a deep dive into crossover. I would 100% be down for that.
Crossover. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So got it.
But like I said,
Crossover.
it's on your channel, so
We're
your
doing
rules.
it. We're doing it. My channel, my rules. We're doing crossover. End of story.
So for anyone, like we were just talking, we're gonna do indie deep dives where we've already done Department of Truth. We just did We Only Find Them When We're Dead, or When They're Dead. Oh my God, We Only Find Them When They're Dead is the one that
I am dead after reading this book.
Yeah.
My eyes are dead after looking at the art. My colorblind.
So then now,
have we deep dove into Saga?
Deep dive Saga is
when it gets re-released.
Yeah, whenever I get that previews announcement that like Saga's coming back after a 3-year hiatus,
Jen and I
will be reading that,
and maybe Mars, probably Mars
for sure.
We will have a Saga freaking party.
Yeah,
and if Jen throws a party with other people, I will keep this receipt and say no, we're doing it because we're Saga. Saga is something that's like it takes all precedent when the previews come out.
But let's go.
Don't worry.
We'll go ahead and plan on doing crossover next. We may change our mind. Who knows? But
I'm all in.
We'll definitely plan on doing that. So we know how we feel about this book. Kind of wrapped it up. We're about at an hour. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to say about this book before? Like what are your final thoughts? What's your final, like, if you had to wrap this up, what would it be?
If you're an Ewing fan, I do think that it's great that you do read this. I think that I really do want to say, guys, read this book. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there are other books where I can steer you. So just because we're talking about this book, doesn't mean I'm going to hate on it. Doesn't mean I'm going to praise it. There are things that I like, things I didn't like. I'm not going to be recommending this because I know that as a writer, Al Ewing is capable of so much better. So if this was on your radar, read it, right? So you can know for yourself. But if it wasn't on your radar, but it was like a Netflix show where you have to ask 5 people whether or not to watch it or not, don't.
Yeah. Yep. And I feel like the first issue, like after going back and reading this again, I feel like I tried to remember where I was at with the issues, and I'm like, okay, I remember kind of like why I stopped reading it in the single issues. It was still good, but I needed more. When I was rereading this, I think that the same time that this came out, I think 7 Secrets by Tom Taylor was coming out. And I dropped that one after issue 1 and I hated it. But then I went back and read the trade, mostly because Mars was like, this is my favorite book. And I loved 7 Secrets after a reread.
Yes.
Like, loved it. So I would say if you do kind of like this one, I would also recommend 7 Secrets by Tom Taylor.
Yes, that was great as well. I actually read the issue. I actually read issue 6 of this right before the show. And it was much better. I will give it that. It was much better than this trade. But I didn't care. I'm just like, I don't care about what they're doing. So I'm probably going to drop it.
Yeah. I might read the second trade just to kind of be there, but I'll probably wait until the second volume of the trade is like available used somewhere or at a really good deal. I don't know if I'll be picking it up like the week that it comes out. One thing that I do have to say about the first volume of this trade is it's doing that amazing, like what Image was doing for a while, where the first trade was $9.99. I really like that Boom is doing that. I think that there's a couple other publishers, like I think Scout is doing it. I think Behemoth is doing it. So I really like that some of the publishers are doing that $10 first trade, because Image doing that. Yeah, if you're gonna buy it, $10 isn't too bad.
It's a good investment. Because if you really like it, then you're like, oh my God, a $10 book. I'm recommending this to my friend. But if it's not, you're like, $10 is 2 issues of a comic book.
Yeah. Yep.
2, actually, it's 1.5 DC issues if you're really pricing it out.
Yeah. Maybe, you know, one issue if you think about all the variants you picked up, because I know that I'm pretty sure that I ended up getting the Chris Ward variant cover.
How
So
many X-Men covers are you getting tomorrow?
okay, so here's the thing. Whenever, I think this was like a month and a half ago, whenever my shop was like, "Hey, Jennifer, like we saw that you ordered like one of the Pride variants for like something," and they're like, what other like Pride variants do you want? You know, what do you want for the Hellfire Gala?" And I'm like, every single Pride variant that there is, and every single Hellfire Gala there is. Just one of each. And I'm going into tomorrow knowing that the rest of my stack isn't too big because I'm probably going to spend
A lot
on
of money on
Pride.
X-Men.
Between Pride and X-Men, I'm probably going to spend over $100, which isn't like, I mean, I know how much I spend on comics, and it's dumb bitch money, but I think that this time, like, my heart's in it. So
Yeah, I'm with it with the Hellfire Gala.
yeah.
I'm 100% on board. If you're a mutant fan, this is everything you want. It's everyone coming together,
Hmm.
which you've never seen before, right? It's just great. You have to be an X-Men fan to know. It's like if you know, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like the warmest feeling knowing that the X-Men are celebrating, and it's just I'm dressing up. Y'all not ready for my Wednesday picture tomorrow.
I'm
Y'all
ready.
are not ready.
I'm ready.
Um, y'all not ready for my Hellfire Gala fit. I will be taking it tonight. I will be posting it tomorrow. Wishing everyone a very happy Hellfire Gala. So that's a teaser for my Instagram tomorrow. So follow.
Nice. Ooh,
Oh,
I'm here for it.
please. Yes. Yes. But I'm
Um,
excited. I'm so excited.
Me too. So let's we'll go ahead and wrap it up since we just
Boom. Let's
hit
go.
that hour mark. So go ahead one more time. I'm gonna go ahead and solo you out.
Oh.
Go ahead and talk about your channel. Tell us about the things you do, where
Oh,
people can
boom.
find you.
So once again, as I just mentioned, you can find me over on Instagram at ComixKings. I'm also on YouTube, ComixKings as well. That's where all my content is going to be transferred over because I'm still in that transition of transferring everything from IGTV over to YouTube. So I think I'm getting the hang of it. Starting to really feel my way around. However, some cool stuff going on. I have 3 pillar shows: Weekly Wrap Up, which is a weekly comic book review show with my guy Bryce Hillbilly Comics, and then Dan is a guest when he's available as well. Um, Bryce is like my Mars, so that's that dynamic.
Aw.
Yeah, so Bryce is awesome, and then Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame, what to do with my co-host Ryan, who's and his buddy Chad, his cousin Chad. They have their own YouTube channel. That's a great show. We take 2 comics under a similar theme and read them, review them, tell you guys which one's in the Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame after deep diving into both. And it's on the issue alone, not the price value you're going to see on eBay or my comic shop or anywhere else you're perusing around. I love that word, perusing. The last one I want to talk about is Creators Corner, which that is something that I promote and I'm really annoying about promoting because it's such a passion project for me. I recently just interviewed Philip Kennedy Johnson, and 5 days before that, Will Spartacio. This Sunday will be the 1-year anniversary, and coincidentally, Bob Layton is going to be on the show. Writer of Demon in the Bottle, artist Demon in the Bottle, co-creator of Ant-Man, Scott Lang Ant-Man, and co-creator of War Machine, Hunters from DC Comics, also co-created Valiant. So, boom. Oh, Gary B, bro, I subbed you up today too. Congrats, you're getting to 600. Everybody, get this guy to 600. Go get that guy to 600. So definitely make sure you guys are tuning in on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for Bob Layton, which is honestly, I'm in such shock. Can I tell the story of how it happened?
Please.
So
Yeah.
I was feeling, I interviewed Will, so I interviewed Philip Kennedy, and I was like really feeling myself. And I was like, you know what? It's Sunday morning. It was like 11 a.m. And I emailed him, just sent him my resume. And I was like, if you have availability, please let me know. I would be really excited to talk to you. He hits me back and he says, based off your resume, as soon as possible. And I'm like, and my face just went blank, you know? So I was like, what the heck? Like, it was such like, I can't even like fathom how good I'm feeling right now. So that's really inspiring for me to really grow because I know my channel is very small in sub count, and I know that I'm doing a lot of things above my sub count that's happening. And it's just like, it's so inspiring for me to be better every day. Not just for for the sub count, that really doesn't matter to me. But as a person, right, as a martial artist, it's something that I want to do once the hips get better. It's just a mindset is I'm never comfortable. Every day I want to do something better, something bigger. And today was very productive. I have a lot of things coming on that I can't talk about. But if you do see someone at AwesomeCon hosting a panel, it might be me.
Ooh.
That just happened today, by the way.
That is very exciting. I'm excited for the return of conventions. I actually, speaking of life returning to things as normal, our friend, I don't know if Derek is still in the chat, but Derek here hosts, he's a DJ here in Portland and hosts an amazing night at Coffin Club. And it's like my favorite thing to do. And I just got to like go back and do normal things. Not that I think going out to like a goth alternative club is like normal, but it's normal for me. And I finally got to go back after a year and a half, and that and the return of conventions just make me so happy. So we're almost there, folks. Maybe soon.
Howdy, friends.
Howdy, friends. So we are, thank you so much for giving all of that. See, you mentioned you talking to Bob Layton, is this Sunday at 7, which is for my time. So it means I can't do a Sunday night show. I have to do a Sunday morning show so I can obviously, be in the chat rooting you on. So, maybe next time, friends.
I did not mean to raid on your parade.
No, it's okay. We'll do Sunday morning. I mean, we've been doing Sunday morning. So it just means that we'll postpone the Sunday evening show. We'll keep doing our Sunday morning thing. So
I did not mean it like that. Now I feel like a dick.
No, you're all right. You're all right, friend. So I do want to go ahead and say thank you so much for everyone to be here. Thank you so much for everyone who was here, letting us like basically just rip this fucking book to shreds a little bit, but still like bring it back together, because it was really delightful.
We did both.
Yeah, we did both. It was like we just gave it a really nice beating that it wanted, and then gave it some nice aftercare. That's how I see it, anyways.
Yeah, it was like a child growing up. Yeah. A crossover will be a more educated review and more
crossover. I have so many opinions about crossover, so we'll be
a lot of information too, because there are a lot of Easter eggs that not a lot of people miss or caught on to. Even I'm still putting the pieces together.
I'm just saying, if you are reading crossover and you are not reading Solid Blood 17, you need to do it.
Or Stillwater. Read Stillwater too.
I hate Stillwater. I hate Stillwater so much. I read the first issue. I know. Let's do Stillwater. I'll trash that one too.
We'll talk crossover. We need a book that's positive, Jen. We need to have people here for a reason.
Maybe when the next one, when Saga comes back, definitely. But I do want to go ahead and wrap it up and say thank you so much for everyone for being here. Like we've mentioned this whole time, please go and subscribe to Brandon. You're doing such cool things. I absolutely love it. Love that we got to meet about over comic books, and I think that
100%.
You last year interviewed Brian Michael Bendis, and it was so cool to see that.
It wasn't Bendis. Bendis stood me up, asshole. But it was. Whoops. Last year was Alex Sinclair. It was a bunch of people last year on IGTV. I don't know exactly which creator we met over, but it wasn't Bendis. It was Bendis was supposed to come, and I was getting ready. I made this whole graphic, right? Kind of like how the Superman theme was like Bendis is coming. I was gonna do that, and I was like, then he stood me up, and I was like, I'm man, sad. And that was mainly the fault of my other co-host who was supposed to follow up because it was his interview, but that's why he's no longer around.
Oh, well, that's all right. You're doing incredible things. So thank you, Brandon, for letting us talk this one.
100%.
You can find me here on Sunday mornings, trashing other books with my friend Mars. This last Sunday, 2-3 days ago, was it? We asked the hard-hitting questions like, why does that slug have abs? And do slugs have butts? And why is Beta Ray Bill the Shrek of the Marvel Universe? and you know, that's the peak. That's where
Will he
Mark and
bang
I
Lady
get.
Sif? That's what I saw in the thumbnail, and I'm like,
Will he finally bang Lady Sif, or is he going to bang his spaceship? Who knows? So
that does not sound right on any level.
all
When
those
I
questions and more, like what creators probably like the smells of their own farts. Those are the hard-hitting questions that we ask on Sundays. I am with a also a very fun group on Fridays, on Friday evenings. I go live with Comic Talk Live over on Wildebeest channel, where we do, you know, we talk about the comics that came out and which ones we're reading, which ones we're not, and then we do go over we'll sometimes talk movie news, and sometimes we do questions, which get a little bit out of hand. But I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for being here on a Tuesday night. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. We will see you all next time.
first of the
Bye.
month.